So the first thing I want to do is kind of recognize some of our area guys and our directors who don't get a lot of pub. I just feel like this is a chance to kind of give them some recognition. So I'd like to do that. They bust their butts all year long, 8 months a year. The travel, the meetings, the calls, they do so much. They're the unsung heroes of our organization, I feel, especially in this process. So we have two directors, Pat Sperduto and David Hinson, or two college directors. Terry Delp does the Midwest. Drew Grigson, we just hired. His role will be determined later on here. Jason Lamb does the Southwest. John Howard does the West National. Greg Castillo does the West Regional. And then you have Cassidy Kaminsky doing the Northeast, and Will Christofferson does the Mid-Atlantic. So that's our staff there again. And Madison Aponte is our college scouting director, who helps kind of as a liaison between myself and them, and she does a phenomenal job as well. So that's the crew. They do a heck of a job. I want to give them their due. With that said, you guys can shoot. Give me the questions you'd like.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with Adam Teicher.
Hey Ryan, how you doing today?
Hey Adam, how you doing, bud?
Good, good. Hey, I got a couple of things for you. Start you off with a Josh Simmons question. Taking the injury out of it for a second, just what he put on tape before the injury. How does he rank as a tackle prospect? Not just this year. How did you guys have him rank? Not just this year, but maybe going back a few years. Where's his standing and all that?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Josh is one of the better tackles in this draft class. I would give him, you could make your case for the best, but he's definitely in the top three in this draft class in terms of what he provides. The only difference maybe between him and some of the other guys is, um, he started 2 years, and some of these other guys, like the LSU kid, I think started more, and you can say experience and stuff like that. But Josh is physically, he is elite. I mean, he is big, he's strong, his feet jump off the tape. When you put this tape on, his set is as pretty as it looks now in terms of offensive line pass setting. He got better every year. His first year at Ohio State, he flipped to left side, and now from the right side the year prior. And I think it just took him a little time to adjust to just everything, like a new playbook, a new surrounding, a new position, essentially. It's not as easy as people think going from the right side to the left side. There is a big difference, and sometimes it just takes people a little longer. And I think that was the case with Josh. This last year, I mean, you can watch those 6 games, and it's not unfair to say he was the best tackle up to that point. It stinks he got injured, because I do think. I mean, I guess it's good for us because we got him, and that's the only way we would have gotten him. Because that kid, he was a top 20 pick. So it stinks for the kid. It hurt him on his wallet and money, but things happen for a reason, and it's kind of not where you start, it's where you finish. And I think just the setup here that we have with Coach Reed and Coach Heck, is going to be great for this kid. In terms of years past, I would say Josh, when he was healthy, at this year, this tape would be one of the better ones in the last few years. He kind of reminds me of Christian Darrisaw, who's done really well for the Vikings. He's got a little bit of Slater in him, who plays for the Chargers. The kid's arms are longer than I think people think. The combine measured him at 33, but his pro day was 34 and an eighth, and I think that's closer to what we kind of had. I think we had around 34 when we brought him in. So, the kid is super talented and super willing to work, and we're excited to have him where we got him.
Okay, and my second question is on Brashard Smith. What do you think he'll need a lot of developmental time to play, at least on offense? I'm not talking about special teams here, but on offense, or do you think he's maybe a guy who's in that respect is more than a seventh round pick?
Yeah. So we had him higher on our board than where we took him. That's when you start to consider trading. When a guy is there that you have higher on your board, and you feel like, listen, what we would give up is peanuts to compare to what we think we'll get. I think this kid, if he comes in, he hammers the playbook, which is a big feat now. That's not easy. This offense is difficult. I'm sure you guys hear that every year, and it is. But you have a coach who's willing, like our coaches are super excited about the kid, and they will find ways to get this kid on the field, whether it's in a third down role and all down roll, whatever they decide, the kid will play. I don't know if you guys noticed, the kid's been playing running back since like 4 years old. So it's in his blood. Like he's played the position. Now in college, he played receiver and he didn't play a ton. And I remember them talking about this is the next guy up, and it just never happened there at Miami. Rhett Lashley coached him when he was there at Miami and brought him over. And then he tells the story. He was watching Pacheco and the Chiefs and thought, man, I think Brashad could be like this. And hats off to them, man. Um, they moved him to the position, and 1 year production, he had 1,300 yards. I mean, that's super impressive. What he can offer on the field is, and I know Cadarius gets kind of beat up sometimes, but when Cadarius had the ball in his hand, his rack and the things he could do with it in terms of his balance and strength and his feet and his feel, this kid has similar ability to that. When he has the ball in his hands, whether it's as a runner or catching the ball, he can do some silly things in terms of what he can set up. So we're really excited. Now he has to come in and pick everything up, and there has to be a comfort level that he knows what he's doing. But talent-wise, there should be no reason this kid shouldn't help us at some point in the season. And our coaches are going to be very willing and able to work with him to get him into roles that can help us.
Hey, great stuff, Ryan. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
We'll go next to Sam McDowell.
Hey Ryan, how's it going, man?
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good. Sid, I'll have a couple of things too. One follow on Brashard first. Brett had mentioned the week ahead of the draft that you guys wanted to get a running back out of this draft. Obviously, there were opportunities in other rounds. There were some running backs there, fourth, fifth. I know you guys didn't have a sixth-round pick, but what's sort of the strategy, knowing that Brashard's on the board, he's a guy you still like, and trying to decide when is the right time to pounce on a position that you guys were targeting?
Yeah, so we knew before the draft this was a very deep running back class. There's guys that fell into the fourth round that we thought would be gone at the beginning of two and possibly, or beginning of three and possibly maybe even two. So we kind of knew it was deep. We knew Brashard was somebody we liked kind of in the mid rounds, but with it being so deep, there was maybe a chance to get him. What happened was in the fifth, I mean, there was a player and Jeff Bossa who was there, who was clearly the best player on our board. So that would have been a time to take a running back. But when you have a other player that is higher on the board, Brett likes to go by, listen, let's let the board, we've worked on this board for 8 months. Let's let this thing speak to us. So we took the player we had slightly higher, and Jeff Bossa, and then it allowed Brett to like refocus and say, okay, I'm going to take a running back now. I know who I want. So we get to the seventh round, and Brett felt like giving up another seventh round pick to move up was well worth it. And I think everybody did, to get the kid that we liked in the mid rounds. So that was kind of the thinking there.
Secondly, I wanted to ask you about Jaylen Royals. What's just the process of, his tape looks really good, his numbers look really good. What's the process of?
I got a freeze. Everyone else get a freeze here? Or is that me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll come back to him.
State?
You froze out. So
Oh, here we go. Now you're
You
unfrozen.
froze out there one
Go
more
ahead.
time.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I just
Yeah.
wonder what can you guys finish off? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Ryan. I just wondered the process with Jaylen Royals. Obviously, he's not an SEC kid. He went to Utah State. What's the process of determining, and what attributes do you look to say, hey, this kid's skills will translate to this next level?
Yeah, first up, his game is very similar to Rashid's, where you watch a kid, he lines up primarily on the left side. That's how they do. That's how some offenses in college work. They want to go fast, so they'll have the receiver line up on the same side every time to do that. So you're wondering, all right, like he's always playing on the left side. Like, is he gonna be able to move around? And he does. He plays outside, but he primarily plays inside in the slot. When I say he's like Rashid in term, he's got big hands, strong hands, and he's very good after the catch. And you saw him downfield too on some of those clips. I'm sure you saw. I mean, the kid had what, 57, 50 plus touchdowns in 2023. He was on record, or he was on pace in 2024 to kind of smash the 2023 production before he got injured. So we thought rack is it's a big part of our offense. That's something we look for in receivers. I mean, we look for speed. The kid had that 4.40. We look for strength. He has that, and he's got rack. And we look for route running, and that's probably an area where Rashid had to kind of develop a little bit. So we kind of thought they were similar in that respect. But he came on the scene. We watched his tape. Before the Senior Bowl, Brett will kind of pick guys that you pick and choose, and we're like, hey, this guy's kind of interesting. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and we thought he did well. So he got it, he got even more on the radar. Then he goes to the combine, he runs a 4.40, you know what I mean? And he jumps to 36, and we're like, oh, this kid's explosive. And then you get the kind of coaches involved, and we Zoom them and we talk, and we're like, yeah, we could use this kid. And with Rashid coming back from injury and trying to get right, the hopes are, this kid can step in and try to get some playing time and help us out.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll go next to Blair.
Thanks, Sid. Ryan, a lot of changes in college sports over the last few years with NIL, the COVID year extending eligibility, free transfers. And I'm just wondering how any of that has affected scouting players
Yeah.
in the NFL.
The biggest issue with the NIL is these kids do not stay at one college to develop. They're constantly transferring, right? Because of the idea of, okay, first off, that might be more of an issue with the transfer portal than NIL itself. I'm all for players getting paid. It's when they transfer 3 times in one year. When are you getting developed? If you're always in the transfer portal or you're off the field or you're not in a building, that's the thing. So now you're going to get players who are going to come in and they're just less developed based on they're not staying at a program. They're not getting a year's worth of training. They're getting maybe 3, 4 months of strength training because they're in the portal or they're gone or they're taking trips. But they're learning different offenses, different coaches. So they're not getting in rhythm there. I think that's the biggest difference. And then for scouting, like, how do you get a good snapshot of a player's personal background and character when they've been at 3 or 4 different schools? You're going to hear a different report from like half the time, they're all going to be different. The last school to have them, it's going to be usually positive because they want their guy drafted and they're going to give you good stuff. And then you might go to the school that he just left from, who's angry he left and transferred out, and it might be different. So now you got to kind of piece it together and say what's real and what isn't real. For us right now, it's just development and what kind of kid are you actually getting? Which version of this kid are you going to get?
Thank you.
We'll go next to Jesse. Go ahead, Jesse.
Hey, Ryan, I wanted to ask you about Omar Norman Lott.
Yeah.
It seems like his board, there's people that have him really high, and then others don't have him as high. I guess, well, what makes you confident about your evaluation about him? And I guess in a perfect world, what role does he fit for you guys?
Yeah, so he's got some similarities to Turk. He's bigger. He's not as fast, but their play style is very similar. This kid was like 99 percentile in terms of rush win rate. He was one of the top defensive tackles in winning one-on-one pass rush. And that's what we first off need, and that's what we saw could add value. These guys, these interior linemen that are, athletic, this kid jumped 31 and a half, 9.5. His big hands, those guys go quick. We knew they go quick. So we thought, and a interior guy that can rush as well, go even quicker. So Brett was before the draft, before that round, Brett was pretty adamant about, okay, he's one of these guys we have to consider. And we put up a list of 4 or 5 guys, and he was one of them, and he ended up being one of the top guys left, and that was a position of need as well. But we feel like he can come in and help rush the passer. I feel like he didn't start a ton in his career there at Tennessee, but it's really what you do with snaps, and they rotate a lot. So really it's just what he does in those 20 to 25 snaps a game. And the kid was high motor. He was highly productive and highly disruptive. And those are the things we look for. And I think we'll be able to Coach Collins, the best defensive line coach in the NFL, I believe, and he'll be able to get that out of him, and I think more. And even against the run, the kid I thought was solid and stout enough. So that might be an area, just because he's 305 pounds, that can be a little better. But we're excited to get this kid and work with him because we think there's a ton of potential.
I think you said me, Sydney. You were muted, but my thing came up. Am I up next? Okay.
Sorry.
Couple questions if I could, Sydney. First of all, combine measuring, Ryan, you mentioned it. Josh Simmons was, You
Yeah.
felt longer than the combine measurement. That seemed to be a real theme this year. Maybe that's just a theme that's caught on and you guys have always felt that, but why do we seem to see that everybody's arm length gets an inch longer when they go to their pro day? What's the disconnect there on that
Yeah.
information?
We actually had
Oh,
our analytics guy look at this, and this was an outlier year. These arms were substantially shorter. I think it was 3/8 of an inch on average. Every player was shorter from the combine to the pro day, and that's what we look at. Okay, is it one or two players, or is there a theme here? And it was pretty consistent. And that's not on. It's just listen. Every year the combine has scouts that that they ask to help out, and I think they changed the arm length, the person measuring arm length, and it was just that person doing it this year. Now, if it can be consistent, all we want is consistency, right? So if it's again next year a little shorter and a little shorter and a little shorter, that's fine as long as it's consistent throughout years. It's when you go from maybe being longer to now short, then back to long, like that's where your analytics and your data kind of gets thrown off. So hopefully it's if it's going to be a little shorter, hopefully that's the case next year and it's not too long and now we're like, oh my gosh, what are we getting here? You know what I mean? Because you just want consistency. Because I don't know, 10 years ago, the arm lengths were consistently long, and everyone knew it. So when a kid went to the combine, you'd say, okay, these are consistently long. But there's so many players that get measured there, and it's 350 players that you have like a pool there that if it's consistently long every year, it's so many players getting their arms measured that you just kind of keep it instead of picking and choosing which arm length you're going to use. You know what I mean?
yeah. All
Yeah.
right. And then as far as Simmons, there were some reports. You kind of touched on this a little bit about the NIL and guys changing schools and maybe tougher to get the reports on, background and maturity and because coaching staffs maybe haven't been with the guy as long. There were some reports that maybe there was some immaturity involved with Simmons. I'm just curious where you think the character is. Did you see those reports? Do you talk to San Diego State, Ohio State? Like how do you track everybody down that to get all that
Yeah.
info?
We did a ton of work on this kid. We had people call San Diego State. I went into Ohio State along with two other scouts, and you talk to the coaches, the strength coach, you talk to the academics. I mean, we zoomed the kid twice. We brought him in. So we've done so much work on this kid. We felt good with the character. Was there some immaturity maybe in 2023? It's really, are you seeing this kid grow? When you go from San Diego State, where you're the big fish, to Ohio State now, where you're like a small fish in a big pond, yeah, it's different because you're still programmed to act like you did at San Diego State. I think when he got to Ohio State his first year, everything was so new. I don't think it was necessarily a case of him being immature. I think it was just him trying to adjust I mean, this is a West Coast kid going to the Midwest in a different area, a different coaching staff, different demands. I mean, Big Ten, these Power Five, huge programs, they're run like NFL. They have huge expectations and demands, and some of these other programs just aren't. They don't have the money or the resources to match that. So I think once he got to Ohio State, it took a little time, but 2024, his character was fine. We had no issue with the kid's background, anything like that. He works hard. He's in the building, doesn't do a lot off the field. So we weren't too concerned about that. Yeah.
Right. We'll go next to Nick Jacobs.
And Sydney, I'll have a follow-up if I can, please. Ryan, I'm curious with each one of these guys you drafted, what is the unique trait or characteristic that separated them from other guys at that position to take him at that spot?
Okay. So you want me to go down through each one?
Please.
All right. So I say Simmons first, his feet and just his balance. Like I said before, his set and how he looks, and he's a good run blocker. But the pass stuff I mean, this is a pass league, and Coach Reed is a passing coach for the most part. What he looked there in terms of what he could show was impressive and exciting. Omar it would be the motor and just the get off. His get off is one of the tops in this class, and he can get up the field and uses his hands. He's got a move array. So him as a rusher was very intriguing. The Gillette kid, oh my gosh. I mean, there's a ton of things with him. He plays 100 miles an hour, and he's got crazy power he's got 32-inch arms, but the kid can knock tackles back like nobody's business. So that was exciting. And for us, if you want to be an elite rusher in this league, you got to have the speed to power. move, and that kid does. Noah Williams, it would be the ball skills and the instincts. The kid consistently sets himself up to make plays. The Royals kid would be the rack, the strong, the speed, the ability to break tackles. Those things kind of intrigued us because, again, like I said, that's something we take as a high priority as receivers run after catchability. The Bossa kid, outside of the athleticism, it would be. I mean, the kid was instinctive. I mean, he's got a little Nick Bolton to him, where he is in the right place at the right time. He's super sharp. You watch him on tape, and for me, the first thing I noticed is like the guy's directing traffic. He's doing everything, and I think Coach Daly really liked that too because we value smart inside backers. That is a premium. And then Brashad Smith, it would be the thing that stood out the most to him is for his size, he is a strong runner and he is tough. He catches the ball really well. I think everyone knows that as a receiver, but just his ability, his balance and contact strength are sneaky good.
And then my next question for you, in terms of offensive line from probably the start of the spread offense and the 2008 up till now, how have you seen offensive line evolution at tackle from a scouting perspective? How has it kind of altered over the past decade?
Yeah, so you see less, you see kind of less and less tackles getting back 5 yards and their kicks and three kicks. It's a lot of quick stuff. It's a lot of cover up stuff. A lot of it's RPO. So what's RPO? It's essentially a play action run. So the lineman will come off the ball and fit up, and then the ball's out. So them just getting used to going back to and holding their like sustaining. Kicking back 5 yards and sustaining a block and using their hands. The issue is the hands go downhill. When you're constantly flying off the ball and you got to cover up for 2 seconds, you're not used to now punching, recovering with your hands, resetting your hands, punching inside. Like that's what you lose. You lose little attention to detail with the hands, and I think that's what we see when we get guys like, oh, we got to work on the hands, and it's workable. It's something you can do, but it's definitely something we saw that or have seen that's gotten worse. Yeah. Thanks, Book.
And last one, go ahead, Greg.
Hello, Ryan. I wanted to ask you about one of the scouts that you singled out at the outset, Terry Delp. And I
Yeah,
assume that when you say the Midwest, that Kansas falls into the category of the Midwest.
it does.
Even though the guys from KU and K-State went elsewhere, how would you summarize his abilities to single out that talent in his area?
Yeah, Terry knows people very like Terry's been doing this for a while now. I don't know how many years. I want to say maybe 17, 18 years. I might be short there, but he's done the same area for a while now, and he has really good sources, and he has people he trusts, and he's good. He has people that he relies on. So Terry lives in the area, and he's able to go to those schools multiple times, able to go to games multiple times. So he sees these teams, Kansas State, a ton. So that gives you a huge advantage when you can live in your area and be around these schools and go in whenever you need to and see these games. I mean, I don't know how many games he goes to in Kansas. I mean, if it's taking his son, he's going 2, 3 games. These KU games, or he's a KU guy. I'm sure you know that, or Kansas State. So he knows the kids well because he sees them so much, and he knows their background well because he talks to these sources that have been there that he knows well. So that's a huge advantage for us, and that's why Terry's a great asset to our program here.
Okay, we've got one last one. So, Ren, go ahead.
Thanks, Cindy. I just wanted to, Ryan, we've heard Brett talk about, a lot of the trade up stuff, you guys leading up to it have called all the teams. You kind of know where everyone's mindset is. And so there's a little bit of a head start maybe off what, the fans see and just watching the draft there. But when it gets down to it, how much is it, like how are the responsibilities divided up there at the moment? You go on the clock, you got 5 minutes, phone's ringing, are you checking charts? Somebody else is checking a
Yeah.
different chart. How's that all break down on game day?
Yeah, so the first thing is Chris Shea and Mark Richards do a great job. They created an electronic, essentially, we don't like Brett still uses the trade chart, but most of us use an electronic one where we can click our pick, click their pick, and it'll tell you, hey, here's the difference in value. So for us on the phones, you can kind of get the conversation going without checking on Chris Shea or Brett Veach because you'll have an idea of where this trade is and what you'd be willing to offer. But Brett will, all of us know different personnel people on different teams. Some of us closer than others. So Brett will say, hey, Ryan, can you reach out to Atlanta? Or Ryan, can you reach out to Cincinnati? Some of certain teams, or hey, can somebody reach out to New England? And then somebody that's been in contact with New England prior will then hit the person up there in contact with and say, hey, trade. Brett wants to trade up or he wants to trade back. So it's really the relationships you have is the quickest way to get the information. Or Crochet could just hit up their cap guy and say, hey, we want to come up and this is what we're willing to offer. You know what I mean? But it's a pretty calm process. The first two rounds, Crochet will actually do like a cheat sheet menu and say, hey, if we want to go here, this is what we're probably willing to give up. If we want to go back, we'd be willing to give this up. So that's the first two rounds when you have time to plan it out. Obviously, the last day, it's a little more hectic and you're kind of flying the seat of your pants and when teams are calling, you're adjusting. But it's a all hands on deck. Every executive that's in there is helping Brett out and getting information and getting it back to him. Yeah.
Okay, Ryan. Great job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.